Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Puccini's Tosca, which was shown at the Staatsoper im Schiller Theater. The conductor was Domingo Indoyan, the directors were Alves Hermanes and Gudrun Hartmann, the set design and costumes were done by Kristina Jorianne, the lights were handled by Gleb Fliczynski, the chorus master was Martin Wright, and the dramaturgy was handled by Jens Schroth. Now, as I said before in another production of Tosca that I've seen at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, this is yet another famous opera composed by Giacomo Puccini, which has enjoyed worldwide fame aside from the likes of La Boheme and Madama Butterfly. And this is also an opera that is a true challenge to three principal singers who embark on the roles of Floria Tosca, Mario Cavaradossi, and Barone Vitellio Scarpia. Without these characters and these singers, you would never have this opera. With that said, let's get on to what I thought about the production, costumes, singers, conducting, and chorus. I really love this particular production of Tosca. You could really tell that everyone behind the production, from the directors to the scenographers, to the costume designers, really did their research of what the architecture in Rome looked like, but also did a little bit of research of what people in Puccini's time wore, since this also took place in the 1900s, even though the original play took place in the 1800s. It's sort of like transporting from the 1800s and then putting it into Puccini's time, as if to say that this isn't just the original play coming to life, but this is also Puccini's opera coming to life. What's also worth mentioning is that before the opera started, and even before each scene started, there was a huge backdrop with really gorgeous roses with the inscription of Tosca, V. Sardou, or Victorien Sardou, Giuseppe Ilica, and Giacomo Puccini, which I found very fascinating, and I thought it really was appropriate for this particular opera. And another thing worth mentioning about the production is that on top of these pillars, you see like a lot of pictures of what's going on in the entire opera. And I thought that those pictures looked really, really lovely. And I thought they were really amazing as well. But I kind of have to point this out immediately, is that the final scene where Tosca jumps from the parapet to her death, it's only shown in the pictures, and we only see Tosca like desperately looking to the heavens as if though that she has finally reached it. But it would have been really nice if there could have been like a sort of stage magic to have Tosca like run to the parapet and then jump immediately to make the illusion that the Tosca of the evening also very much jumped to the ground. I mean, come on. We have what we call stage magic. And I have to say that the costumes were really, really elegant. Like I said before, they basically transported what the characters from the 1800s, and they transported them to Puccini's time, meaning that they basically wore the clothes of what everyone wore in the 1900s. Like, instead of seeing Scarpia with his powdered wig and his really, really spiffy looking uniform complete with a coiffeur, we see him in a brown trench coat alongside some of his lackeys also in like brown as well, which I found very interesting. And well, they still managed to really make the costumes look very elegant, very colorful, and just totally glamorous in their own special way as well. So overall, I really have to say that despite my few nitpicks with some of the elements of this production, I really have to say that I loved it all throughout. I could tell that everyone did their homework of what life was like in the 1900s in Rome, what they wore, and everything else in between. And what really stood out for me were the absolutely gorgeous pictures. And now we get to the singers, starting off with our main heroine, Floria Tosca, sung tonight by the German-Italian dramatic soprano Anya Campe. Now, with Tosca, you really need either a spinto soprano or dramatic soprano or a Wagnerian soprano or, in some occasions, a Zwischenfachsängerin to really sing the role. There's no doubt that I love singers like Gina Cigna, Maria Caniglia, Renata Tebaldi, Maria Callas, Marcella Pobbe, Clara Petrella, and many, many other spinto sopranos. Oh, and also Montserrat Caballé, Leila Gencer, and many others that I could barely name off the top of my head who embodied this role. But if you really want to know my preference of voice for Tosca, I would always go for any Wagnerian soprano or a Zwischenfachsängerin, the likes of Helena Braun, Erna Schlüter, Astrid Varnay, Birgit Nilsson, Susanne Joyol, Ludmila Porakova, Nadezhda Kniplova, Eva Marton, Carol Yar, Gabriele Schnaut, Linda Watson, Violetta Ormana, Katarina de Leiman, Janice Baird, Irina Bossini, and Mona Zoom. Oh, and also the likes of Shirley Verrett, Grace Bombry, and Beatriz Uria-Monzó, who are basically mezzos, but have also been well known to sing some of the roles from the dramatic soprano repertoire. Heck, you even had the likes of Elena Obraztsova and Markela Hatziano singing Visi d'arte in their concerts. And I thought that with Anya Campe as Tosca, wow, did she blow me away. I was skeptical at first because what I noticed about Anya Campe was that once upon a time she started out as a very lyrical singer, starting off with the likes of Gretel and Zerlina, and then finally working her way up to the likes of Fiordaligi, Donna Elvira, and Liu, and then to the more spinto-y roles of the Marschallin, Elsa, Elisabeth from Tannhäuser, and Zenta from The Flying Dutchman, and finally, nowadays she's singing the likes of Isolde, Kundry, Sieglinde, and she's gonna sing her first Brunhilde in 2017. And she is also very well known in the role of Leonora from Fidelio. So I was quite doubtful at first because I wasn't so sure how well she was going to cope with the music, but wow, my skepticism melted away the moment she entered on stage. Her voice was rich and creamy. It's opulent. It has that plushness that I always love in any dramatic soprano. It's incisive when it has to be. And she has an absolutely engaging and athletic stage presence. She's sleek and slim. She's absolutely gorgeous on stage. She looks youthful. She's energetic in this part. And she fulfills this role very well. And she definitely was phenomenal in this role. I really have to give her a lot of kudos for the hard work, the diligent portrayal of this iconic Puccini heroine, and her overall manner when she was on stage. Every time I saw her, I was just like so blown away. She was vivacious and playful in the first act. She was so engaged in the drama in the second act. And in the third act, you could really see the desperation when she's about to jump from the parapet. I thought she did fabulously. And then we have her main lover, Mario Cavaradossi, and also the main hero of this opera, sung tonight by Fabio Sartori, who I also saw like a few weeks ago singing Poglione in a concert version of Norma. This role is very coveted by a lot of full lyric tenors, spinto tenors, and dramatic tenors. There has been no shortage of tenors who sang this very iconic Puccini part. The likes of Beniamino Gigli, Giovanni Zanatello, Giacomo Laurivolpi, Jussi Björling, James King, Mario del Monaco, Carlo Bergonzi, Franco Corelli, Giuseppe Di Stefano, Salvatore Licitra, Roberto Alagna, and many, 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 many other tenors who have embodied this role. And this role is just as coveted as the likes of Eleazar from La Juive, Don José from Carmen, Loge from Das Rheingold, Lohengrin, Walter von Stolzing from the Meistersinger von Nürnberg, Erik from Der Fliegende Holländer, Egist from Elektra, Herodes from Salome, Edgardo from Lucia de la Mermur, Percy from Anna Bolena, and many, 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 many other tenor roles that a lot of really wonderful tenors have embodied. We even have the very popular interpreters of Cavaradossi from the 70s to the 80s that include the likes of Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, and Jose Carreras, aka the Three Tenors, who have found great success in this wonderful hero. And I thought that with Fabio Sartori, he has a very magnificent voice. In fact, I liked his vocal performance much better here than his vocal performance in Norma. There were times that in Norma he sounded a little bit lukewarm, but here it just all went out. He still maintained that fine instrument, which is so brilliant and so clear on the high notes, and I thought that his vocal performance was an improvement over his performance in Norma, in my opinion. He was able to underact a lot. He didn't really go like full-blooded and totally over the top. He basically underacted his part, which I thought was totally fine, especially if you're going to make a film version. But at times I would have loved to see a lot more fire and hot-bloodedness in this very passionate hero. Besides, a lot of Cavaradossis have been very well known to really put in a lot of push and pull to this hero and to really make him passionate as well. But with him underacting, I thought it was okay. But more than anything, I really have to say that his vocal performance was still of the highest order. His high notes were clarion, his timbre was robust, and his singing was, as I said, of the highest order. Then we have the role of Il Barone Vitello Scarpia, sung tonight by the veteran bass baritone Falk Struckmann. This role is coveted by a lot of dramatic baritones and Heldenbaritones. There has been no shortage of dramatic baritones who have basically specialized in the operas of Verdi, Puccini, Wagner, and a lot of the Italian, French, German, Russian, and at times the English and Slavic operas in general, usually specializing in roles like kings or villains or the wise characters who basically also embodied Scarpia. In fact, my personal favorite Scarpias include the likes of Tito Gobbi, Giuseppe Taddei, George London, Gian Giacomo Guelfi, Cornell McNeil, Cheryl Milnes, Silvano Carolli, Giorgio Zancanaro, and even Bryn Terfel. What I really enjoyed about Falk Struckmann in this character was his overall sense of menace and how he manages to balance that menace with a dark sense of humor and a dark sense of charm as well. And it's no surprise because he has been singing this role for many, many years as well. And as I said before in my review of his performance as Gurnamans in Parsifal, he also sang a lot of the Heldenbariton roles. And nowadays he's veering towards the more basso roles. And like I said before, he's gonna start singing the likes of Fafner, Hunding, and Hagen in an upcoming ring cycle which is about to be staged this June, which I'm looking forward to if it's not sold out. So, anyways, back to Falk Struckmann. He was absolutely fine in this character. His characterization was menacing, charming, and it was absolutely just wonderful all throughout. His voice didn't show any wear and tear whatsoever. His overall manner was absolutely fine all throughout, and he has that tendency to kind of like hop a lot every time he has to move around. And there are times that I seem to notice that's so typical of Falk Struckmann that he basically opens his mouth very, very wide when he has to sing certain passages, especially when it comes to singing some of the high notes. And they didn't come out strangled, they came out just wonderfully. So overall, I really have to give my hat off to Herr Falk Struckmann for continuing to embody this iconic Puccini villain with such malice, charm, and sometimes a dark sense of humor. Then we have the role of Cesare Angelotti, performed tonight by Grigori Scarupa, who embodies this wonderful character-based part with charisma, energy, and urgency. And his voice, as to be expected, was homogeneous all throughout the registers and has a gorgeous timbre. And then we have the role of the sacristan, sung by the wonderful basso cantante Jan Martinik, who embodies this role with a very round and rich basso voice, which I love, and he didn't go over the top nor clownish in this wonderful role. And he was able to be a very human sacristan, and he really embodied this part very well with a sense of down-to-earthedness and a sense of humor that manages to be very engaging and manages to really put a huge smile on my face every time he's on stage. And then we have the underlings, Sharonne, sung tonight with such fine and gorgeous tones, thanks to the wonderful young bass baritone, Vincenzo Neri. He was absolutely fine in this wonderful character part. And then we have Spoletta, sung tonight by the excellent character tenor, Florian Hoffmann, who embodied this role very well, making him appropriately slimy and sleazy, all thanks to his wonderful character tenor instrument. And in the equally small part of the jailer, we have Dominic Barberi. And I forgot to say this. It's not the firing squad that we'd usually expect in traditional productions of Tosca that would do Cavaradossi in, but it's basically the jailer that basically does Cavaradossi in with one gunshot. And I thought it was rather interesting. And I thought that with Dominic Barberi's performance as the jailer, he has a very fine tone in his voice, and he has an equally bright future. Heck, I could even say the same thing for Vincenzo Neri, who embodied Sharonne. And then we have the wonderful treble voice of Johannes Wenzel, who sung the role of the shepherd boy. I thought he gave a gorgeous rendition of his arietta. So overall, I am totally impressed with the singing. Special kudos really has to go to Anya Kampe, who did very fabulously as Tosca, really hitting all the notes with finesse and aplomb and singing this role with abandon. The conducting done by Maestro Domingo Indoyan was absolutely well done. Very nuanced, very crisp, and very scintillating as well. It is powerful when it has to be, and it's light and quiet when it needs to be. And what more can I say about the chorus and orchestra of the Staatsoper Theater? They were absolutely well done. So overall, I definitely enjoyed my evening with this wonderful Puccini opera, which also happens to be one of my most favorite verismo operas of all time. Well, that's all for now. I hope you all had a very wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and I wish you all a good night.